Perfect. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Blurt Ali Kai, and I'm a risk advisory solution consultant in ServiceNow. I've been nearly 2 years with ServiceNow, and I'm based in London, UK. Specialize in financial services sector, but I do help in other accounts as well. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by my colleague, Sam Prankis, and I'll hand over to him to introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sam Prankis, also a solutions consultant at ServiceNow. I began my career as an auditor with KPMG in Chicago, been working in the GRC space the last 10 years. We're excited to talk about performance analytics today and how performance analytics works in ServiceNow.
Right. So before we start the webinar, just to go through some housekeeping rules. During the sessions, you will be automatically muted. Please use the Q&A feature to ask any questions you may have. The session will be recorded and shared within the ServiceNow community forum or in the YouTube channel as well afterwards. Following the sessions, you may be asked to complete a brief survey, and we would greatly appreciate your feedback. In terms of the agenda, we will start with some of the reporting challenges within the GRC tools. Then we will go just make a comparison, like what's traditional reporting, what if you had analytics on top, and versus the performance analytics. We'll follow with a demonstration with some of the reports and dashboards we do have out of the box in ServiceNow that have performance analytics enabled. And at the end, we will spend some time answering your questions. So if we start with some of the challenges we see today with GRC reporting, and I'm sure everyone can resonate, we know that GRC tools are designed to help organizations manage their compliance requirements and risk management processes. These tools can be very useful for monitoring and reporting on various aspects of the organization GRC activities. But using these tools also can present several reporting challenges. One of the main challenges within GRC reporting is data quality. Since GRC data often comes from multiple sources, ensuring that the data is accurate, complete, and up to date can be very challenging. Hence, also that can be also subject to human error and inconsistencies, which then can affect the reliability of the reports. Another challenge that we see with this is also complexity. So GRC tools can be complex, and the report they generate may be difficult for the non-expert to understand. And this also can make it challenging to communicate important information to stakeholders and decision makers who may not have in-depth understanding of GRC activities or may not use the GRC on their day-to-day activities. GRC tool may also lack of flexibility, so the need to generate customized reports that meet the specific needs of the organization. This can limit the usefulness of the reports generated by the tool. And integration also is another challenge within this the GRC reporting, as these tools may not integrate well with other systems used by the organization, which can make it challenges to aggregate data from multiple sources and generate these comprehensive reports. The lack of standardization can also make it difficult to compare data across different business units or organizations. This can make it challenges to then identify trends and patterns that may be indicative of broader issues or risks that basically can help you manage the effective GRC or risk and compliance program. Sam, could you walk us through an end-to-end process of generating a report, and if you can emphasize any of these challenges I mentioned on that process?
Yeah, absolutely. And the current state of the GRC marketplace, the governance, risk, and compliance tools that we're used to are certainly not lacking in reporting capabilities. It's table stakes for GRC tools that have pie charts, bar graphs, other visual widgets, what I like to call kind of two-dimensional reporting. If you navigate to the websites of different GRC tools, you'll see these kind of basic dashboards just on their homepage, almost to the point where all GRC sites start to look the same. The problem with this, it oftentimes limits customers from building enhanced data visualization reports, similar to what you'd see in a business intelligence tool like a Power BI or a Tableau. Risk and compliance teams oftentimes need to present key performance indicators to leadership to show things like trend analysis to see emerging risks over time, percent increases or decreases, month over month, quarter over quarter, dynamic filtering capabilities to isolate specific areas of the business, as well as the ability to kind of stack data on top of each other to provide consolidated metrics. So because these GRC tools lack these kind of advanced reporting capabilities, GRC teams work with other platform admins of Tableau, Power BI, data visualization tools to manually import and export the data. So the process looks a little bit something like, if we go to the next slide, here's just an illustration of a typical end-to-end cycle. This is obviously embellished a little bit to kind of to drive home the point, but there's basically three separate tools. So we have the GRC tool, top row, Microsoft Excel, and then the business intelligence tools like Tableau, Power BI is the bottom row. So we start from the GRC tool. There's a three-step process where you access the tool, you navigate to the data source and perform some sort of Excel export. Then from Excel, there's typically some sort of a cleanup, matching column headers, changing the date format or the string format. So you sort of clean up the data in Excel, coordinate the upload with whether it's your admin team or the data visualization team, and then you manually perform that import into the business intelligence tool. At this point, there's typically some sort of a spot check. Did the data come in correctly? Might be a little bit troubleshooting if there is any exceptions or any outliers in the information we've uploaded. And then ultimately, this data is being presented to leadership in the third-party business intelligence tool. So that's really the end-to-end cycle. It's a little bit error-prone because there is so much manual export, import of data. So Blair, I'll kick it back to you kind of to alleviate this time-consuming process. Blair's is going to explain a little bit about ServiceNow's native performance analytics capabilities.
Yeah, before we drill in and we do any sort of demonstration, I really wanted to give you an overview of what is performance analytics. So basically, it's a powerful tool that allows the organization to gain easy access to their key performance indicators and metrics. So you can start leveraging these KPIs, these metrics is to optimize the organization services, streamline processes. You can align organizational goal to these dashboards. And this solution uses real-time data within the platform. So you can use real-time data and then you can use these data to provide actionable insights. You can allow businesses to make informed decisions based on the data that you see into your performance analytics dashboard. So essentially, if you think about it, performance analytics just adds that layer of analytics and performance to your reports. So while a two-dimensional report provides, for example, a snapshot where your business stands at a given moment, performance analytics provides additional context and trend information, offering a more complete picture of the past, present, and future performance. And if we basically do a comparison between reporting and what analytics adds into traditional reporting, we can start with showing that what does reporting provide. So basically provides a snapshot where we are right now. For example, if we know the number of risk events is 5, let's say, that is a single data point that doesn't give us much information. It doesn't tell us if that number is low. It doesn't tell if that number is high, if it's trending up or if it's trending down or is bad or good for us. Analytics, on the other hand, will add trend information to that single data point provided by the reporting. you can examine then historical data, and you can see if the things are looking good or bad, or looking high or low, and this over time as well. So you can see over time if you're trending up, if you're trending down, and this can give you a more complete picture of where you have been and whether you have improved. Once you understand where you're coming from, like based on the historical data, and whether you're going to, like, whether you've improved through that cycle of time, then you can start setting targets from where do you want to be. So you can use past performance as a guide. You can set reasonable and attainable targets, and then by combining the past and the forecasted performance, you can identify areas for improvement, take actions to ensure that you have full visibility in your risk and compliance programs. So from this, we can understand that reporting, if you just, as a summary of what reporting is, you can understand that it's that single data point that shows the current state of affairs, and analytics will add on top of that context, will add trend information to provide you that comprehensive understanding of, you looking at the historical data, looking at the current data, and seeing that like future performance based on that trend. So this was like if you basically add the analytics. Now, if you compare reporting versus performance analytics, a layer on top, you can see, like from the screenshot here, that reporting focuses on the operational status. So you can use reports to optimize your process. That would mean delving through hundreds of records and just to understand the situations where progress was blocked, for example, in this case. Performance analytics, on the other hand, provide information at process level. So by focusing on process indicators, you can look at a visibility on your processes. If, for example, we mentioned number of risk events earlier, you can have a metric to say number of risk events handled by the first assigned group, and then you can have this as a trend. So it provides you visibility on the performance of this process, like how well are you performing, and not just on the individual record. So the approach basically helps you for effective optimization of processes. So you don't need to spend hundred or tons of hours to basically do that manual analysis that you would typically do to understand the trend or the process, how well your processes around risk and compliance are performing. So just to summarize before we go through to the demo, like you can use this platform feature that is performance analytics, and you can add this to your GRC programs. So like you can anticipate trends, prioritize resources, drive effective automation. Like you can basically drive continuous improvements by using key indicators, scorecards, time charts, all of these on your risk and compliance programs. So now if I will share my screen, actually just share like an instance of ServiceNow I have, just to show you exactly like, how these reports or how these dashboards would look like. So you can get an idea how this can help you drive those successful risk and compliance programs. Perfect. So this is a typical dashboard for enterprise risk management in ServiceNow. This has performance analytics enabled. So this will help provide a concise and easily understandable view of the organizational risk program. If you look at the report that basically has the operational risk metrics, this basically has multiple metrics, I think more than 10 metrics here, which you can look over time. Like you can look at the last 3 quarters and compare it with the last 2 quarters and compare it with the current quarter. You can see the trending of your data. And then basically, if you think this in a way, it's a significant improvement over having to search for multiple reports that use different formats and different data points to inform on that or in the organization risk and compliance posture. So what this allows you to define most critical metrics or red flags that you have around your enterprise risk program and track them over time. So it's a comprehensive and continually updated view of the organization risk posture, and this can easily be exported or presented to the leadership for on your meeting. So basically, these would be your most important metrics, starting from like number of high residual risks. And then the last one, for example, number of impact of risk events with impact higher than 1 million. So you would define like what are most important metrics that you want to track, what are those red flags or like, gaps that you want to look around your programs, and you want to track them over time. And then based on the data that you see and the trend that you see, you can basically start taking decisions and use these insights to drive successful programs. And this basically makes it easier to identify, like, for example, where are you trending up, where are you trending down, and then align them to the program with the organization's strategic goals, because you may have a goal to have like, or a risk appetite or an appetite to, or a target or a threshold for something. So this, you will have a look and see like, how are you performing through those the appetites and targets and thresholds that you put as an organization. And rather than having 10 reports to be presented at your meetings, you can basically have this simple table with operational risk metrics. This is just an example. You can define like what would be a typical important metric for you to track for your risk program, and then you can take in these data that look meaningful and show this to others. So this is I will go through and explain like, exactly like what this dashboard has, and Sam later on will drill on a specific use case, but just to show, like, you start with like looking at your most important risk metrics that you've defined and looking at how they're performing over time. If you have like any sort of heat maps, you can have a look on your heat maps. But performance analytics like help you also track the state of your whole risk program. So everything you see here is risk program. So like if someone that sits and like, has this dashboard and looks at this dashboard day to day, can manage their risk program, looking at like, what is in the queue, like if everything is overdoing. If I hover it in the here, you can see like everything is real time and everything is clickable. Like if I want to see the data, for example, here I can see like all the data that I have the platform, but I want to focus only on the 6 months. I can always go ahead, click and make like, adjustments on the reports that I'd like to see. And if I'm interested to see like more, like you can see, like I can always click and open the analytics hub here. So this will like basically show me the data that makes the analytics and like other important metrics that I can gather and have a look at. And this is basically like how this, like you can see that you have your reporting around GRC, but you're elevating this reports, adding performance analytics on some of your reports. And I think we will go through this task. I just wanted to spend some time in the last tab of this enterprise risk dashboards. And the decisions that business leaders make are only as good as the data that supports them. So like taking an attention to the data preparation to ensure that you have good data that will make your analysis more accurate and meaningful is a step that drive those risks and compliance successful programs. So for more meaningful data, that you will have better insights and of course better outcomes. So this allows you to set those important metrics that you may have around your risk and compliance program. So for example, you want to see like your active risk, your active controls, like then that over time, you want to see risk without mitigation controls. And this can be like an important metric that you want to have a look. For example, if I just go in and look at this report, I'm able to see that how this has gone over time. You can see here I have last year and this quarter as an analysis, and I can see the data. I can look at the specific quarter in time and see like how this data has changed. Obviously, I can change the type of the chart if I want, for example, to change it to a line, or if I want to change it to a spline here. You can always have these different types, or if you prefer a column, you can always go in and check how many of the risk you had over without mitigating controls. And this all helps you drive these decisions. Here you can see, for example, you can see like how this is driving over time. Here, actually, you may have done something that it started to minimize, like, this graph to basically go like from, let's say, almost 4,000 control risk without mitigating controls to in the Q4 to 700, and then in Q1 to 300. So basically on the data and this specific reports that the analytic report that basically looks at your data on your risk program and finds out like those important metrics for you to track, like those risks that have no mitigating controls, then you can go in and take some actions. I think if I just hover in here, you can see that here we initiated a campaign to review those risks with no mitigating controls and assign controls to these, and then you can see like all these important analytics metrics that will help, like see like what was the maximum of how many controls or how many risks you had with mitigating controls over time, and what's the minimum. So what you can do here, you can look at these data, you can drive improvement initiatives like this one here to basically like initiate a campaign that you can have a look on your data and assign mitigating controls to your risks. And then you can set targets. For example, you can set like a global target, like for the whole organization, or personal target. And that target could look like, for example, you can write in that it needs to go down to, let's say, 50 records per quarter. Like this, it basically aligns to your organization goals. Or if you want to put a threshold, so like a threshold, same again, you can say like, I want to have always less than 50. And then when I save this, I would be basically able to see where the threshold is. And then how, if I change this to area as well, like I'm basically targeting here, like whatever comes above this threshold, it means that's something that I should have a look, and this should be flagged. And maybe I should receive a notification as well that something is above the threshold I have defined. And then again, you can always add comments, like you can see here, like there's this comment that has been added to basically say like that yes, we can see the data, and that's yes, we are taking some actions to improve the quality of the data that we have around our risk program. And then obviously information around this specific report. So this helps you, like, looking at the data, analyzing the data, and taking decisions in your data, because you can see the trend. And then maybe like if you're somewhere like, you hit 3,000 here, 4,000 here, you can basically say like, why was this due to something that happened? Like you maybe had a batch of new data into your platform. That's why this happened. But the trend, if you want to see like, how basically the trend is going, you're basically going like from high to low. So you're in a good path of like achieving your targets or goals or thresholds that you have around improving the quality of the risks that you have without mitigating controls. And that's like some of the figures that you can use. You can always go in, look at the trends, look at the confidence band, like look at the initiatives, and like any sort of things that you may have around your programs. And what does this help as well? You can compare the data. For example, here we can see like Q1 with today. If we look at today with the last quarter of the year, you can see a difference between like you twice as good as last Q4 of 2022. Q3, you can see like how good you are, like you've improved 200% on like this quarter, just because you've seen something that indicated that's an area that you should focus on and improve the quality of your data. So if I go ahead and basically show like what else this dashboard has, you can see that as an organization, you may have some metrics that you want to always track, that you want to always to look at. These are an example of the metrics around the data quality. As I said, like some of the decisions you make will be as good as the data that supports them. That's why, like for driving those risk and compliance programs, having a look on your data, improving the quality of your data will basically come with better insights and better outcomes as well. And this is a typical example of like how many of these metrics that you can set up. And it's an example. What you see here is completely out of the box. So you can use what comes out of the box, or you can improve because you may have other metrics that you as an organization track and have those in your one dashboards that you manage your enterprise risk. Then again, the same information that I was tracking against specific different metrics around risk and controls, I can always go ahead. We were previously in state here. I can always go ahead and check, like, for example, I'm interested to see the data here. You can see, like, with the click, I go to the analytics hub and I can see the information. If you want to see the records, for example, like what are those records that basically make this graph go like this, or like if I change this to an area or to another graph, like I can always go ahead and I can see show records. And you can compare like previous targets and other data, like how they look like over time for a specific kind of reports as well. So like typically, if you have a look, yes, this is looking like a report, but when you're clicking on it, it's also allowing you to look more also the context, and if something actually lists 127, if it's a good, if it's a bad, if it's a low, are you trending down or trending up? So, or are you aligning with your organizational goals as well, based on your targets and thresholds that you put into these kind of reportings? And typically, like you can do this. This state field here basically allows you to look at your whole program and manage everything that you would have around your program, look at those overdue tasks and issues and everything that you may have, and start taking actions based on the data that you see in here. And obviously, this has a view on whole program. You can have separate tabs, like for example, tabs around your assessments, like how your residual risk are across your across the risk categories. Same for inherent risk. You can see the trends. So basically, like I think one of the most important reports is to see how while you do those quarterly risk assessment or yearly risk assessment, what's the trend over not only 6 months, but over a year as well. Are you improving on your greens, or like you're having less reds and so on? So this can give you a view on your quarterly risk assessment that you're performing around your programs. And again, as I said, the overview tab can have like all the most important metrics that you can just take away and then go in and have a look on like how you're performing against those metrics. But you can always go ahead. For example, we had, I think, 1 or 2 metrics in the review tab about your risk events. You can set up those targets or those metrics on risk events with more details around losses, like events with non-financial impact. What's the reason of that these are happening, how frequent those are happening, which are the business units or the departments that are causing these types of risk events, or which is the type of risk that it's trending more than the other. So this is what you can do, and you can put these metrics, these risk event metrics as well. So this is some sort of report that you can basically take away, because you basically have real-time data on your on the number of risk events that are happening, the score, the change, the trend of this risk event over time. And as I said, for example, this is with impact more than 1 million. If this happens, you can set up notifications and things to target or to basically inform people in the organization that a threshold or a target has been breached. So they should look at the dashboard and see, analyze the data, why this has happened. And then again, same reports you would have for your control assurance program, for your issues program. So you can have a look, or as you can see with this dashboard, I'm able to have an overview of the program. Like I don't have to look at several reports to look at how my risk program is performing. But then if I want to drill into the details and see like in a specific area of risk how I'm performing, I can always go ahead and look at the reports that I have and how I'm trending over these reports, and like what is basically the context of like what's this is happening, and I'm improving over time. So I will hand over to Sam now, so he can give you like a specific example, for example, around a risk event workflow and like how that would look like into the platform in terms of reporting.
Yeah, thanks, Blarta. And I think one thing that I just want to emphasize before we dive into the risk events here is, Blarta mentioned this is these PA dashboards are ready to go out of the box. Now, of course, the demo data that's driving these dashboards is kind of unique to our instance, but all of these placeholders for performance analytics metrics are provided out of the box. So it really helps with the question of when you're implementing a program, or when you're taking the next step in your maturity journey for building a GRC program. It helps with the, what am I not asking that I should be asking? What am I not tracking that I should be tracking? And what type of metrics should I be presenting to kind of executive leadership? So that's a good, I feel like, it helps with that journey to take the next step in your GRC program. Now we're going to focus on these risk events. Risk events in ServiceNow are basically tracking items that have an implication on financial gain or loss. So nothing gets executive leadership's attention, like putting things in terms of dollars and cents. So if we drill into this risk events screen here, this is going to show our, or actually, let's go into this is the total number of risk events. Let's go into the actual dollar loss figure here. So we're going to look at this gross loss. This is going to show us the trend analysis quarter over quarter. And you can choose, as Blarta mentioned, you can choose the type of visualization if you want to do columns or lines or these area charts. You can adjust the period. So here we just did a manual, show us Q1 through 3. If we want to have a running 4-quarter sum or other different ways of kind of categorizing this data over time to identify different trends, you can do so through these this visualization area feature up here. We also have the ability to show the underlying data. So if you actually want to see what figures are making up these visualizations, you can just go into the underlying data by showing records. So here, these are sorted in descending order by the actual net loss. So here's all the risk events where we've realized the financial loss. They're actually feeding into these visuals that you see on the screen. So very easy to toggle to the underlying data. As Blarta mentioned, there's a lot of ways of setting different targets, thresholds, improvement initiatives. So one thing I want to start with is this target. And this is actually, it's similar to I would say the risk appetite feature, which is a new kind of feature we've rolled out for the entire risk solution. Basically allows you to set a new threshold. So let's say we want to capture all financial losses that are less than $500,000. You can add in that threshold, and that just puts a line on this data visualization. If there's a specific threshold you need to track, maybe this is has implications on different regulatory or kind of external implications, or that's just the threshold that you've set internally. You can supplement these figures with any limits. There's also formal improvement initiatives. So if this is a kind of strategic objective that's kind of being delegated down from leadership, there's a formal tracking program where you can set your target metric and track specific improvement initiatives in the system to reach those overall target figures. And then the other thing here within the data, you can do a lot of different comparisons. So if you want to see total dollar change, percent change, year over year, a lot of different ways to kind of to slice and dice this data. One thing that's my favorite, if we zoom out a little bit here, some of you who are using the GRC or the integrated risk management solution in ServiceNow will be familiar with entities. So entities is essentially a way of grouping. It's a hierarchical structure for grouping everything within your GRC program. So entities might be physical locations, different offices. They might be business processes or business units that you have kind of established that structure internally, or they might even be areas from the ServiceNow platform, such as a class from our CMDB, our configuration management database. Maybe you're tracking all of the critical business applications. It's just a quick way to instantiate controls against all your critical business applications or any entity structure that you've created. So how that actually affects this performance analytics is when we're looking at all these metrics, all the overall figures that Blair went through, you can apply dynamic filters from your entity hierarchy. So again, whether your entities are made up of processes or physical locations or business units, or even, like I said, classes from the CMDB, if we want to say, show me all information from Acme Europe, that's just a dynamic filter that only displays the information related to that specific area of your business. So a quick way to apply dynamic filters and pinpoint a specific set of data that leadership or a certain team might be interested in. So pretty powerful feature there. If we go back to the loss events, so I'm just going to turn off that filter and we'll go back to this gross loss figure. As we looked at earlier, these are made up of different risk events in the system. So I want to quickly show you what a risk event looks like and how this data actually makes its way into these performance analytics dashboards. So I'm going to pop over to this other tab. Here's a risk event in ServiceNow. And again, a risk event is just any issue, complaint, anything that has a financial implication. So first thing, the risk event record will always have a life cycle. So we can tell if this is newly submitted. There's a whole review and approval process that takes place until the item's been closed. And on the overview page, you can see the total gross and net loss and some other figures just summarizing key information about this risk event. We also have a predictive intelligence tool, and not to be confused with performance analytics. Essentially, we use predictive intelligence to create rules with all the risk events you have in ServiceNow and really help you with next steps. So has this risk event been realized previously? Do we have something existing in the database where we might want to create a relationship between these two? Have we successfully remediated a similar risk event, and can we reuse some of those remediation tasks? So the predictive intelligence really helps us sort of recycle data or make informed decisions based on a log of all our previous risk events that have been successfully closed in the system. Some other important fields, we have the details here. This is all the metadata fields for a risk event, where all this information is tracked. Impacted business area. Now, this is really what drives those dynamic entity filters. So if you only want to see items affecting a specific business unit, this is going to be our, it shows the one or multiple areas that are being affected. And then, of course, these risk event entries are the financial statement line items, or line items to track the loss realized based on system downtime, resources. Some teams oftentimes create a kind of an integration with different ERP systems or financial reporting tools if you want to have more of an automated feel in ingesting these from something like the ORX or any other source of risk events that you have. Of course, we're going to link this to risks within our risk register. And then there's other fields here that are captured in this 360-degree view. So this is a nice, for that risk event, it'll tell us the overall loss down to the penny, as well as any entries. So these are kind of the financial entries that are feeding the overall gross and net loss, the business areas that are affected, which risks is this related to from our risk register. So a lot of information which is tracked at the risk level as this progresses throughout its life cycle. And ultimately, all this information is feeding back into this dashboard. It's updating our performance analytics real time in ServiceNow. So we can have this data at our fingertips to make informed decisions and present this to leadership in a concise fashion. So that'll conclude the demo piece. I'm just going to go back into the slides here, and let's close this out with a couple slides. So we looked at our end-to-end reporting cycle. So this was all the steps we saw earlier. There was kind of the diagram with the 9 different steps that would typically take place if a GRC tool doesn't have something like data visualization or performance analytics. A lot of swivel chair exercising, getting this data out of a system into Excel, into our BI tool. So what that's going to look like with ServiceNow, it's just a more streamlined process because our tool has the native performance analytics. You can access the data from ServiceNow and have those PA dashboards updated real time in the system. So you can present these to leadership from one central platform. So I'll kick it back to Blair. I think you have some closing thoughts, or if we go right into the QA. But that's the kind of the PA piece. I hope this demo was useful and informative in how this can be kind of used in a real life scenario.
Thanks, Sam. I think just to conclude this, it's basically what we try to show. This is like you can, on top of your reporting, you can add performance analytics, and they can play a crucial role in understanding your GRC programs while looking at the past. You can looking at the present, and you can always enable forecasting methods to look at the future as well. And those forecasting methods can be linear or seasonal. You can use random forest, like these type of algorithms that can help, like forecast like how your data is trending. So access to like in-platform data like basically provides you valuable information at all levels of the organization, and you can use performance analytics to see the value of this data. So like if you have the data, you can put the value, you can put the visibility into this data, and get the power of data and use that for useful insights and outcomes around your programs. I know that there are some questions. I think some of them I already answered. I will try to answer the ones that I haven't answered yet. For example, I think we have a question into do we have any of the out-of-the-box trend reports for indicators and indicator results for policy and compliance? Yes, there are. There is. I think that there was a tab around the in the enterprise dashboard, which basically it's around indicators, and you can have this trend on your indicators as well. We do have this enabled within workspaces as well. So if you're in a workspace and you want to see like how your indicator results are trending, the performance analytics reporting has been embedded in the workspaces for such cases as well. In which version these performance analytics dashboards is applicable specifically to the enterprise dashboard you were showing? This is applicable. This is a platform feature. So it's if you are in, I think, not sure, like in a type of licenses of IRM, that's something I can definitely double check, but it's a platform feature. It should come within the platform, and you can leverage this platform features for your, basically driving some of your reports, GRC reports as well. This enterprise dashboard that you just saw, basically because it has like a lot of data around your risk programs, risk events, like this is, I think if you want to include the risk events as well, it's enterprise, but I think some of the reporting and data, it comes within IRM Pro as well. So that should be applicable and comes there. Do we have to enable a specific plugin in order for us to be able to utilize the PA dashboard? I think it comes because the PA, as I said, again, is a platform feature. When you update or when you install the GRC plugins around your enterprise risks, this comes within the plugin for your enterprise risk packages. Do we have anything showing vendor risk assessment in performance analytics? Apologies, I don't think we have something at hand that we can show around vendor risk assessments, but similarly, it follows the same logic as what you saw there. You can basically define your most important metrics around your vendor risk programs, and if you want to see like trending or like analysis of data around your vendor risk assessment, because you already have the data, you would just need to start building this indicators, this metrics, and put these kind of reports into your dashboards. I think I've answered all the questions that we have in the Q&A tab. We will be uploading this to YouTube, to our YouTube channel. We will be uploading this, I think, to our ServiceNow community as well. And then you're always I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. I think we have our contacts in the ends of these slides, which you can contact if you have any questions, or reach out to specific ServiceNow teams. If you want to know more about performance analytics, GRC, or happy to run like a more detailed demonstration from respective teams on this topic. Thank you, everyone, and see you in the next webinar.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.